And we welcome you here to Hornet Field as Fullerton College gets set to take on the Santa Ana College Dons right here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne joining you live here along with Joseph Pavlenko behind home plate as we get set for this afternoon's matchup between Fullerton and Santa Ana. As Andrea Uriarte comes up to lead things off for Santa Ana. We'll get to the lineups in just a little bit. As Madison Peavy House will get set to deliver home and start off game number 2. So Peavy House in the circle getting set to take on Uriarte. And she leaves the first pitch up and high, and we're underway, 1 ball and no strikes. Leading things off is Uriarte. She'll be joined by Erilyn Ramirez and Jordan Westfield. After Westfield hits, that would bring up Ayari Ramirez and Shelby Macias. There's strike 1, and it's 1-1. After them, Emily Rosas will be up, joined by the 7, 8, and 9 hitters, which are Miranda Ramirez, Michaela Avina, and Cecilia Sanchez. That's the 9 for Santa Ana, as the first hit of the game is going to be lined into left field for a single. So Santa Ana already with the runner on, and they will bring up Erilyn Ramirez. Santa Ana winning game number 1 here of a doubleheader, 5-3 in comeback fashion. Again, Fullerton in inning number 1 of game 1 was able to put up a 3 spot on Santa Ana. Had the bases loaded at one point, brought some runs across, and then that would be it for the Hornet offense for the rest of the afternoon. As the first pitch from Peavy House to Ramirez is going to go too far inside, 1-0. One ball, no strikes. As Erilyn Ramirez steps back in, crowding the plate just slightly, and she'll take a called strike right down the middle. That ball gets popped up over towards the right, and it's going to go into the glove of a Hornet. As Jocelyn Alcala ends up finding the ball there, and Jordan Westerfield comes up next. So Westerfield's first pitch is in there for a called strike, 0-1. And she offers it this one and fouls it down towards the left. So Westerfield is the 3rd batter of the game. 1 out here in the top half of the first inning. Santa Ana and Fullerton College live here from the campus of Fullerton College. Westerfield lines this one down towards the right field corner. She's got a chance of being tossed out at first, and she is not. Nice job by Ferguson out and right to get that throw in. But it's just a step behind, and that will be runners on first and second. So now coming up next for Santa Ana will be Ayari Ramirez. Peavy House to Ayari Ramirez. This is back behind second base. Called for and dropped on that right-hand side in foul territory by Jocelyn Alcala. So Alcala gives Ayari Ramirez another opportunity at the plate. And Ramirez will dig back in. Swing and a miss for 0-2. In the field for Fullerton, PV House in the circle. Behind home plate is Natera. Over at first is Lucero. And at second is Alcala, as we've mentioned. Grounded foul off the foot of Ramirez. And it keeps it 0-2. Over at third is Casey Dufresne, shortstop of D. Ramirez. Outfield from left to right, Miranda Rooney, Clarissa Hernandez, and Madison Ferguson. Oh and 2. Back to home, and that's well outside. One ball, 2 strikes with 1 away. Top half of the first inning, couple runners on for Santa Ana. Here in game 2 of a doubleheader on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko joining you live from the campus of Fullerton College. Little looper out into right field. Ferguson with a good first step, and she'll make the catch for out number 2. And up next is Shelby Macias. Runners on first and second, top 1. Santa Ana trying to return the favor that Fullerton had in the first game and get on the board first. Skied into right field in fair territory. Ferguson makes the catch, and that will do it for the top half of the first. As we go to the bottom half, it is a scoreless ball game as Fullerton gets their first stops coming up in just a moment. You're watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net in conjunction with 90.1 KBPK. Speaking of SportsNetUSA.net, don't forget to keep tuning in to SportsNetUSA.net this upcoming week. We've got a lot of baseball and softball coming up here from Fullerton College. All of it's going to be live right here as you tune in. Myself, Joseph Pavlenko, Mark Pavlovich, Ed Ford, Corey Nayland, Rashawn Haylock, the entire team for SportsNetUSA.net will have a handle on things in terms of getting us up on the air, making sure that we bring you Fullerton College baseball and softball. So keep checking SportsNetUSA.net in this upcoming week for the schedule to see exactly what we have coming up on tap. Now, speaking of SportsNetUSA.net and 90.1 KBPK, we want to remind you that we also have the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK and SportsNetUSA.net. If you want to go back and watch some of the archives, go ahead and go to YouTube and search 90.1 KBPK. And you can see some of the archives that we've had there from previous seasons, as we have also got a couple of shows coming up in just a little bit. Scott Giles, a roundtable, and we're going to get softball hopefully coming up this week as we talk to the head coaching staff for Fullerton College earlier before the ball games. And they are absolutely on board for coming on to the Coaches Show. So check the Coaches Show out on 90.1 KBPK. Back here as the Hornets get set for their first stops of the game, we are set to give you the batting order for Fullerton College. It'll start things off with Madison Ferguson, who gets the start in right field, of course. She leads things off as usual. D. Ramirez right behind her, who had a sparkling afternoon on Tuesday. 3-home run ball game, and she looked magnificent. Casey Dufresne directly behind her with Miranda Rooney batting in the cleanup spot. Madison PV House and Taylor McCall are the 5 and 6 hitters, with 7, 8, and 9 being occupied by Aubrey Lucero, Jocelyn Alcala, and Clarissa Hernandez. The flex today being Alondra Natera. There's a curveball that goes in there for a called strike, 1-1. Ball Ball goes well outside. Scoreboard showing 2-1. But we await the signal from the umpire first. No objection from the umpire, so that gives us a 2-1 count. Or in 1 strike count. Delivery home, and Ferguson takes up and high 3-1. Ferguson, well ahead in the count. She's a left-handed hitter for Fullerton College. Very speedy right fielder who makes up a lot of ground as she sends this one right over to second. Picked up, flipped on to first by Ayari Ramirez, and there's out number 1. And D. Ramirez comes up next. So D. Ramirez, again, as we mentioned, she has plenty of power in her bat and has the opportunity to start things off for Fullerton College offensively. Right-handed hitter for the Hornets, and she will step in. One of the big things about D. Ramirez when she comes up to the plate is that as opposed to most hitters at the college level, she doesn't end up being in the backside of the batter's box. Instead, she scoots up more towards the top half of the batter's box, trying to take away the break from an opposing pitcher. High chopper down to third, picked up, tossed to first by Ramirez, and it's there for a strike and the second out of the bottom half of the first inning. So we gave you the batting order for Fullerton College. Now we take a look at the field for Santa Ana. You look at in the circle, Michaela Avina in her 4th start of the season. Behind home plate is Cecilia Sanchez. That bounces in and will go off to the left. 1 ball, no strikes. Over at first is Jordan Westerfield. Ayari Ramirez at second. At third is Erilyn Ramirez. And at short is Shelby Macias. That's the infield for Santa Ana College, as scooting out of the way of that one is Dufresne. Casey Dufresne with a 2-ball and no strike count. Out in left field is Emily Rosas. Center field being patrolled by Andrea Uriarte. And to round things out, in right, as Casey Dufresne takes that one too far and inside, and she'll take a walk up the first base side. It is Avina in right. In the circle is Aspen Kiles, right-handed tosser for Santa Ana. As left-hander Madison Rooney comes up next. Or excuse me, Miranda Rooney. Madison Peavy House will be directly behind her. That's if the inning continues with the runner over at first, Dufresne. Moving up towards second, high floater over towards the line, and Rosas on a dead run towards the foul line. She will make the catch for out number 3. That's going to take us to the top half of the second. No score. Fullerton, Santa Ana. You're watching SportsNetUSA.net's coverage of Fullerton College softball. And again, we thank you for joining us here on SportsNetUSA.net to recap the first game that took place here on SportsNetUSA.net this afternoon. Fullerton College ends up getting a 5-3 loss as they took 3 runs off of Santa Ana in the bottom half of the first, loaded the bases, but then came up with 3 straight batters who weren't able to get a run across. And it was interesting as Fullerton just wasn't able to get any more offense on the board the rest of the way. Santa Ana kind of piecing in runs here and there. They got a couple in the second inning, added on 2 more in the third, and then later on in the 5th, they were able to add on 1 more. And it allowed for Santa Ana College to get a win. Now, the thing is that when you look at that first game, it's a land of missed opportunities for Fullerton College. Again, you talk about that bases loaded opportunity in the first inning. Well, in the bottom half of the 7th, they had runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs and weren't able to get a run across to at least get closer or possibly tie the game. So if you're Fullerton College, you know that here in this one, That's something that you've got to be able to fix. With runners in scoring position or runners on base, you have to be able to move people across here in the Orange Empire Conference. Finishing up her warm-up tosses is PV House, and she's going to get set to face Rosas to start. And Rosas will be joined by Miranda Ramirez after. So we're here at Fullerton College, the softball field, where PV House lays in there for 0-1. And again, we thank you for tuning in to sportsnetusa.net, no matter where you are, whether it be here in the Southland, across the country, or maybe at recess. We thank you for watching here on sportsnetusa.net. 1 ball and 1 strike as that one goes about head high. You can see the infield for Fullerton with Dufresne, Ramirez, Alcala from left to right as this is scooped over towards left. And easily getting under it is Rooney for out number 1 in the top half of the second. And that last person in the infield from earlier was Aubrey Lucero. Rooney, Hernandez, and Ferguson. That's the outfield from left to right for the Hornets. So Miranda Ramirez is up, and she takes the first pitch, grounds it over to Dufresne at third. A quick, easy toss on the first, and 2 are gone, just 3 pitches in. That's going to bring up the next hitter for Santa Ana, and Michaela Avina. First pitch well inside. 1 ball and no strikes. Hornet outfield, about 3 to 4 steps in for Avina, and Avina gets a called strike in on the hands. 1 ball and 1 strike with 2 away. Well outside, and it's 2-1. You're wondering to yourself, hey, wait a minute, I looked at the schedule. The schedule clearly says 12 p.m. and 2:30. Why are we in the second inning here in game number 2? Well, I'll tell you. That first game had a lot of bases loaded and runners on second and third opportunities for both sides. As this is grounded directly back to PV House, she makes the catch and tosses on to first for out number 3. We go to the bottom half of the third. Our score, well, it's still zeros across for both of these two teams. As we go to the bottom of the third, Fullerton has their ups coming up next. You are watching Fullerton College Softball on sportsnetusa.net. Glad you're joining us here on sportsnetusa.net. Earlier, you heard the franchise, Rashawn Haylock, gracing us with his presence, making it felt here on sportsnetusa.net. It is good to hear him back on the air here on sportsnetusa.net because, again, myself, the last time that I was on the air with Rashawn was a good year and a half ago now, which is incredible to think about because him and I did Golden West College football, or more accurately, Rashawn did Golden West College football. I was there happy to join along for the ride. Quite literally sometimes, too. We had to go down to Southwestern, and then we had to go down to San Diego Mesa, and then all the way up to, you know, the Santa Clarita Valley. So I was quite literally along for the ride. But nonetheless, It is good to be on the air with Rashawn once more. A good 17 months in between the last times that both of us have gotten on the air together. Close enough. As Madison PV House gets set to come up to the plate next. PV House getting the start here in game number 2, which is often the case for Fullerton College at this point. Second half of doubleheaders, she ends up going, as Lopez goes the first half. First pitch from Kyler goes too far to the inside and below the knees as well. But it's 1 ball and no strikes. PV House takes well outside this time, and it's 2-0. PV House, 3-0. PV House gets a called strike on her, 3-1. Make it 3-2 as she swings through that next one. Grounder over to third, picked up Ramirez onto first, and it gets through Westerfield. That's going to be an error. We'll see who it gets charged against. As there's now a runner over at first. Next person due up is Taylor McCall. McCall only had 5 at-bats previous to today's doubleheader, and she floats this one up and foul off to the left. Got on base in the first game, as she also pinch hit. No balls, 1 strike, nobody out. Runner over at first is PV House. PV House trying to help out her own cause here. We've seen her be sent a couple of times earlier on this season. This time she won't end up taking off, and it's 1-1. Fullerton in the gold uniforms today with navy blue outlining, piping, and side paneling. Numerals and lettering also in navy blue. There's a swing and a miss by McCall. Fullerton going with the all-white pants in addition to white stirrups, white sanitaries, and 2 stripe pattern on the stirrups. Delivery home, McCall swings and misses, and she's out number 1. On the other side for Santa Ana, they are in their gray uniform tops today with Santa Ana cursive script across the chest, side paneling in black, and outlining in red. Their stirrups are all black with a 3-hoop pattern of red and white. One ball and no strikes, as that's way up and high to Lucero. 1 out on the scoreboard. PV House over at first. To home. Up into the air, floated foul down towards the right and out of play. Aspen Kiles in the circle, trying to help out Santa Ana here and give the Dons a quick inning. Delivery home, outside and high. 2-1. Ramirez, Macias, Ramirez and Westerfield. That's the infield from left to right. To home it goes. Inside at the knees, and it's a called strike against Lucero, 2-2. Two balls, 2 strikes. Runner still waiting over at first. This is a little swinging bunt into the circle, and it will be tossed over to second in time. as Macias was there on the cover. And it's 2 outs now as Jocelyn Alcala comes up next. First pitch is there, 0-1. Next opportunity from Kyles, and that's well low, 1-1. Fullerton currently at 6-1. As time is called down the first base side. When you look at Fullerton's softball team so far this season, 6-1 record. Their only loss, you ask? Well, that came about 20-25 minutes ago, as it was a 5-3 loss to Santa Ana. They played each other twice earlier, as that was on Tuesday. PV House takes off down to second as that ball gets away. In a doubleheader at Santa Ana, Fullerton won the first half of the doubleheader 10-5 and the second half 6-0, outscoring Santa Ana 16-5 in the process. So to see the offense as this gets away and taking off down to third is going to be Lucero, excuse me, not Alcala. So Lucero down to third, and that is going to draw another conference over at third. So that will be a wild pitch as it was bowled home. If you're wondering to yourself, well, what does it mean when you end up bowling a pitch? Well, just, quite literally think of the game of bowling. That same motion can be said about a pitch. If that ball doesn't end up getting at least halfway through home or halfway to home, and then just kind of bounces its way through, it's the act of bowling a pitch. That situation, and got past Cecilia Sanchez behind home plate. And Kyles has a runner over at third. This is too far inside, and it's going to allow for runners at the corners with 2 outs. Carissa Hernandez to the plate with an excellent opportunity to open up the scoring here. And she takes that one up and high, 1-0. Very overcast afternoon here in the city of Fullerton. Pretty gloomy, lots of wind. Not necessarily anything to be troubled about, but nonetheless, the breeze is strong here. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 2 gone. To home. Little grounder over to Macias. Macias has trouble picking it up. She won't be able to, and a run scores. Madison Ferguson will come up next, as that was a huge opportunity for Santa Ana to get out of the inning. So all of a sudden you're looking at 2 errors here in the inning, allowing for a run to score. That run goes unearned, and you've got runners on first and second. And Madison Ferguson in the top of the order coming up next. And Ferguson is going to take a called strike 0-1. Ferguson takes low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Speaking of Ferguson, so far this year, hitting .227. Gets that called for a strike on the outside half. .227 with 4 strikeouts. An on-base percentage of .346. She has 2 runs batted in and trying to add to that here. Looped up into the air. Rosas trying to get to it, but it's going to end up hitting the floor before she's able to get there. One ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. High chopper over to Ramirez, just able to step on the bag in time, and that's going to take us to the top half of the third. Fullerton gets one on thanks to a couple of errors, and they lead it 1-0 as we go to top 3. You are watching. What's that? As we come back here in the top half of the third inning, Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko joining you live from Fullerton College as the Fullerton College Hornets take on the Santa Ana College Dons. SportsNetUSA.net going to be here a lot next week, so make sure that you tune in here to SportsNetUSA.net. Not just here at softball, but we also have baseball as well. We covered a couple of Fullerton College Hornet baseball games this week, one on Tuesday and one on Thursday. As Natera talks to our home plate umpire and asks where the placement of that ball was, ends up going low. 1 ball and no strikes, 1-0. The Hornets with the lead. Inside half, called strike. Cecilia Sanchez doesn't like it, but she ends up getting a 1-1 count. Delivery home on a 1-1. Up and high, 2-1. Two balls and 1 strike. Back to home it goes, and that's going to bounce in. So now you're looking at a 3-1 count to start things off for PV House. PV House takes a look at the first base dugout, finds the sign and delivers well up and high. 5-pitch walk that is given to Sanchez, and she is on over at first. And Andrea Uriarte comes up next. Here's a called strike. 0-1. Uriarte, right-handed hitter, already 0 for 1 today. As she will dig in. The entire outfield shifting over towards left as Uriarte shows up. And it's going to be bunted in the dirt directly in front of home plate. Toss to first, it's there in time, 2-4 on the putout. But that allows for the runner in Sanchez to move up to second. So the sacrifice is there, it works. And we're going to see Ramirez come up next. One ball and no strikes. Ramirez back to home, and that's going to be a called strike. 1-1. Ramirez not liking the call, and she goes down the third base line to talk to Coach Ross. Back to home. Ramirez smacks one deep towards center. Going back is Hernandez, and she's able to make the catch directly in front of the track. Initially, that ball looked like it had enough pace to at least get to the wall, but as it got into the air, it sort of died a bit, and that is going to bring up Westerfield. One ball and no strikes to Westerfield. Wind blowing towards the right. Going from left field to the first base line. And a called strike to Westerfield makes it 1-1. Westerfield got on once in the first game. Did commit a couple of errors, though, in the field. That's up and high. Westerfield, 22 at-bats, 364. She takes up and high, 3-1. In those 22 at-bats, she is second on the team, or third on the team in RBIs, with 4. 2 strikeouts and a couple of doubles as well. 3 balls and 1 strike. To home, 3-2. Out towards right center field. That one is tailing, and it's going to get in front of Ferguson. Here's the toss down towards home. Not going to be there in time as the tag isn't applied to Cecilia Sanchez, who comes in sliding, and that's going to even up the game at 1. So in the top half of the third, Santa Ana gets a single into right, and with the 5th RBI of her season, Westerfield gets the Dons on the board. First pitch called strike. Down the first base side, foul. 2 strikes on. Oh, and 2. Looking for the inside half is PV House, and she doesn't end up catching it. You can see what Fullerton is trying to do pitching-wise as they're moving the zone up and down and side to side. And what I mean by that is that Fullerton, over the last 2 pitches, you see the called strike and the foul ball on the outside half. Then they go inside trying to set things up for Ramirez to either get jammed in or take a strike, as she's used to that outside corner. And since that doesn't go, they go back to the outside and even it up at 2-2. Inside half, looking for that knee location and can't find it. PV House goes ahead in the count 0-2, and now it's a 3-2 full count. Three balls, 2 strikes, 2 away. Runner over at first, Westerfield, 1 already in. Delivery home, that's down and low. So initially it goes 0-2. And then slowly, PV House tosses 4 straight balls. And Bridget Ruiz is going to go out and talk to PV House in the circle. Now for Fullerton fans, if you're thinking to yourself, well, that name seems familiar. Where do I know her from? Well, that's because she played here for Fullerton College, most recently being a couple years ago. And she was fantastic for the Hornets. In fact, she was part of that Hornet squad that went to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. One of the best pitchers in the entire Orange Empire Conference in her time as a Hornet. She was routinely battling it out with Cypress College and that state championship team that they had. For pitcher of the year, and she ended up transferring out of Fullerton after a very successful Hornet career. But back here to PV House as Ruiz gets a word with her. And with 2 outs, Macias is going to go into the batter's box and take a called strike in on the hands, 0-1. High chopper over to short, picked up by Ramirez, and she will go over and make the catch on Westerfield. That's the 3rd out. We go to the bottom half of the 3rd. Fullerton and Santa Ana now tied at 1. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. We mentioned it earlier, and we will mention it here. Don't forget to keep tuning in to SportsNetUSA.net as we have a lot of Fullerton College coverage coming up in just a little bit. So in addition to today's ball game, we're going to have April the 30th in exactly 1 week, a doubleheader against Santiago Canyon, and then we'll be back here on May the 7th as well, as Golden West will be here for a doubleheader. So a lot of softball here on SportsNetUSA.net coming up. Not to mention the baseball team is going to have their chance to shine in the sun here in the city of Fullerton coming up next week as well. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, it is good to finally see some Fullerton College athletics back and in play, because I miss my Hornets. I miss being able to, listen to Mark, Corey, Rashawn be on the air and tell me about what's going on throughout the entirety of the athletic program, in addition to whatever sporting event is going on. Well, you're in luck, because SportsNetUSA.net is going to be out here and over at baseball quite a bit over the next month and a half or so, as Dee Ramirez gets set to step up to the plate for Fullerton College. And her last time up, little blooper over too short, as she gets set to dig in and lead things off in the bottom half of the third. Dee Ramirez, first pitch, outside, 1-0. One ball, no strikes. This is hammered out towards left, but it's going to go foul. Ramirez gets ahead of that, but puts a charge into it. And she smiles going back to home plate, knowing that she had an opportunity there with the pitch middle in at belt level. 1 ball and 1 strike. One ball, 2 strikes. Out towards right, that is foul. Up and high to Ramirez, 2-2. Up the middle into center field. So Dufresne up to the plate next for Fullerton College. Right-handed hitter for Fullerton has been on once, thanks to an error. Shows bunt, brings it back. Taking off towards second is Dee Ramirez. That ball gets all the way to the backstop. One ball, no strikes, 1-1. A deadlock here between Fullerton and Santa Ana. Ramirez bluffs down towards third as it's now 1 ball and 1 strike. Sun just starting to break through here in the city of Fullerton. Dufresne gets behind this one, sends it out towards left, and it's going to end up hitting the warning track. Getting around to home is Dee Ramirez. It's a stand-up double for Casey Dufresne to drive in a run. So a big-time hit for Casey Dufresne, as Dufresne with just a looping swing that ends up going out to straightaway left center field. Not much tailing to it, not much spinning to it, and it gets all the way out there. One bounces the wall, and she is on second base, giving Fullerton the lead. That's going to give Rooney a chance to come up and extend that for Fullerton. A runner in scoring position over at second. And there's nobody out. Time is called, and there might be a change coming up here. That's exactly what's happening, as we'll get what the change is in just a moment. Runner over at second is Jaylina Perez. No balls, 1 strike. Dust and dirt kind of swirling around the infield here in Fullerton as the breeze starts to pick up a bit. This is bunted down towards third. Picked up, dropped by Ramirez, and everyone's safe. However, down at third, Perez caught in a rundown. Perez taking off down towards third. Cecilia Sanchez fakes her out with the throw, and she's able to apply the tag. Nice job by Cecilia Sanchez, forcing Perez to go back towards home, able to make the tag. And with 1 out, now you still have a runner over at second base. And PV House coming up to the plate next. So PV House with a great opportunity to help out her own cause. 1 out on the board, and this is bowled home. Down to third goes Rooney. So Miranda Rooney with the good bunt down towards third, an error to get her on. She moves up due to the throw and the rundown over at third, and now she has a chance to score here. Very nearly the exact same result as that gets bounced in. Two balls, no strikes, 1 out. Up towards center field, PV House gets underneath it a shade. Here comes Rooney for a second. They're going to toss to third. The ball goes into left field. Rooney sees it, picks it up, takes off towards home, and the Hornets are going to score another run. Taylor McCall comes up next. That's going to make it 3-1. So again, a chance for a double play. An error coming back to haunt Santa Ana. Second time in this game as trying to figure out his Kyle's in the circle. Into the air, high floater. Rosas making the call for it. She'll make the catch. And a 3-1 game now as 2 runs come across for Fullerton in that last half inning. Hornets 3, Santa Ana 1. You are watching Fullerton College Softball on SportsNetUSA.net. So Emily Rosas is going to lead things off for Santa Ana here in the 4th. Again, Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko joining you here at Fullerton College. Quick strike on the board there for PV House. Also known as Talent and the Crew. Joe, our technical director here today, as this is up in the air. Out to left, Rooney will find it and she'll make the catch.
Now to bat number 27, Miranda Ramirez.
One out on the board, and Ramirez up next. Too far inside as PV House tries to catch the corner there. 1 ball and no strikes. There's a called strike, 1-1. Over towards the right side, Alcala is there.
Now to bat number 6, Michaela Mina.
Two outs, PV House. First pitch that she ends up tossing here is going to end up coming back to bite her, as Kayla Avina is now on. So 2 outs, runner over at first. Cecilia Sanchez comes up for the 2nd time today. Last time she came up to the plate, she got on and came around to score. Fouled over towards the left. No balls, 2 strikes. 2 outs, top 4, 3-1. Fullerton with the lead. For Hopper, over to second. Alcala on to first, and that's going to be the 3rd out. So, Fullerton College, 3-1. They have the lead, motoring through this game, just like the street directly behind us. And they will be coming up to the plate next. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Again, we want to thank you for joining us here today and remind you that you can tune in to the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK and SportsNetUSA.net anytime you would like. Just go to YouTube, search 90.1 KBPK or search up KBPK. Click on the channel there and you can see a lot of these the sportsnetusa.net and 90.1 KBPK archives there of the Coaches Show. Previous episodes, all right there, myself and other hosts that we've had, along with Mark Pavlovich as well. You can take a look at some of the football archives that we've had, some championship specials as well. Maybe you're more in the mood for water polo. Well, guess what? The Coaches Show has that as well. We've got everything that you would need from Fullerton College Athletics. We're going to get some changes here coming up in just a little bit as Fullerton College is going to see a new pitcher coming up in just a little bit. Rosas is going to come in from left field, and she will now be pitching. So Rosas gets the start in game number 1, and she is going to come on in relief of Kyles. And we'll see if there are any other changes. There's definitely going to be one out in left field, and that is confirmed by the new pitcher coming in. Brianna Palmer is now going to take over in left. Everyone else stays the same, and we'll reset the lineup coming up here in just a little bit. So 3-1 is our score, and Lucero is going to come up next. The entire bench for Fullerton College getting into the warm-up music here for Lucero. We were talking about that with Mark yesterday. When exactly does the chants, the chatter, all that go away in the game of baseball? Because in softball, you see everyone having fun in the dugouts. They're getting into the game, whether it's on the field or in the dugout. You have an opportunity to stay in the game no matter what. Chants give you that chance to stay active, to stay engaged. Not so in the other game, but it's always a joy to see here at Hornet Field. No balls and 1 strike to home. That's going to stay up and high, and Lucero will watch all the way. 1 ball and 1 strike. One ball and 2 strikes. Lucero up into the air towards the right side. That's fading and in foul territory. Mina's able to get to it in time. So Kayla Avina tracks down that ball in foul ground. Over towards the right side, on to second, just in time for Ramirez to toss over. Over towards short, picked up, thrown to first in time. Clarissa Hernandez doesn't agree with the call, but nonetheless, that is going to go down as a 1-6-3 putout, as that goes off of Rosas onto Macias and tossed to first. That ends our 4th inning of play. We go to the top of the 5th. It's 3-1 Hornets. You are watching Fullerton College softball on sportsnetusa.net. Top 5 here in a dusty day here in the city of Fullerton. No balls and 1 strike. Uriarte up for the 3rd time today. Both times she has been up initially, she has gotten out. Both on ground outs. 1 ball and 1 strike. Hard grounder over to D. Ramirez. Sidestep onto first, and she gets it there. So 1 out with Ramirez up. There's a called strike, 0-2. So 1 out on. Fullerton got 1 in the 2nd and 2 in the 3rd. That's how they have their 3. On the other side, Santa Ana with 1 in the top half of the 3rd. Swing and a miss. PV House with a strikeout of Ramirez, and that brings up Westerfield.
18, Jordan Westerfield.
There's a called strike again. The thing with PV House so far in this ballgame is that she has really worked the inside half to right-handed hitters very well so far. Has controlled that side of the plate, if you will. No balls, 1 strike and 2 gone. 3-1 lead for the Hornets. To home, lined over towards right, Ferguson is there. There's 3 outs, and we go to the bottom half of the 5th inning. Fullerton 3, Santa Ana 1. You are watching Fullerton College Softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko, earlier Mark Pavlovich, Rashawn Haylock, and Ed Ford. The entire cast and crew, save for one person. And that one person has been continuously giving us scores and updates from around the entire state of California over the last couple of days, and we would like to thank him for that as well. Everyone here at SportsNetUSA.net getting involved, making sure that we bring you the best broadcast possible here at Fullerton College. And I'll tell you what, coming out here to softball, Joe, it is sensational to feel appreciated. Especially when you come out here, you talk to the coaches. They're always so accepting of us here at SportsNetUSA.net. Make sure that their availability is up as much as possible. They talk to us about the coaches show and tell us, hey, you know what? When are we going to be on the show next? Speaking of which, we had that conversation earlier today. And then also, not to mention going to talk to the coaches, and they said, you know what? Do you have the tables you need? Do you have the power supply that you need? Is there anything else that may help you guys get on the air and feel more comfortable out here at the softball field? In fact, I was even offered a bottle of ketchup this morning. Went to go grab a table. There was a bottle of ketchup standing on the bottle of table. There was a bottle of ketchup sitting on the table. The coach came up to me and said, if you need the table or the ketchup, you can take either one. So again, we want to thank these coaches for allowing us to be out here and really making sure that we feel at home here on SportsNetUSA.net. It's fun to interact with coaches who are like that. Ferguson at the plate. D. Ramirez would be after her. No balls in, 1 strike. Ferguson takes a spinner that ends up bouncing in from Rosas, and it's 1-1. Bounce home again, same location, 2-1. Two and 1 count. Floated foul to the left. Three balls, 2 strikes. Nobody out as Ferguson is trying to set the table and get things going here in the bottom half of the 5th. That's sent foul down towards the left. One run in the second, 2 in the third for Fullerton. Timely hitting for the Hornets and also capitalizing on a couple of errors for Santa Ana. Giving them this lead, and Ferguson with a single out to left. D. Ramirez, her last time up, a double into left center. No balls and 1 strike. Runner over at first. Are they going to send Ferguson? There she goes. Takes off down towards second. The throw is not in time. So sliding in safely is Ferguson. And not only does she get that single, she's able to get down to second. Coach Ross is going to home plate to talk to the home plate umpire and get the count straightened out. And it's no balls and 2 strikes. Bounce straight back. You're watching at home, you see that ball go right towards the camera. It's like, what was it, back in 2008 or 9 where that 3D technology first came out in theaters? And all of a sudden it was like you could feel the movie directly in front of you. Right into your seat. Well, that's exactly what happens there, as this is going to be booted at second by Ramirez. Coming home to score is Ferguson, and it's an error allowing for a run to score. 4-1 Hornets. And Dufresne comes up next. So the Hornets, with a 3-run lead, meeting in the circle for Santa Ana as they're just trying to calm everything down. Santa Ana Dons traveling up here, trying to even the series against Fullerton College. Both of these two teams played each other on Tuesday in a doubleheader, and Fullerton swept that by a combined score of 16-5. (10-5) in game 1, 6-0 in game 2. You add in the scores from both of these games, and now Fullerton has outscored Santa Ana by a total of 23-11, doubling them up as this is going to be too low inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Runner at first is Ramirez. Fullerton's already struck once here in the bottom half of the 5th. To home, Dufresne. Hot shot foul down towards the right side. One ball and 2 strikes. Dufresne is up there. Plenty of power in her bat if she wants to send one out. Last time she came up, she had an RBI double into left field. Facing a different pitcher now in Rosas. Swings and misses and doesn't catch up to it. And she is out number 1. So with 1 out on, Miranda Rooney comes up next, left-handed hitter. And we'll see whether or not D. Ramirez is sent at any point here. Ramirez has the opportunity to run. 1 out, and this is chopped into left field for a single. So that will bring up PV House. Of course, PV House getting the start here in game 2 for Fullerton. Now has an opportunity to drive in a run here. Dugout again, getting into it over to our right. For PV House, 22 at-bats entering today, 273, but she's second on the team in RBIs. Dee Ramirez is first with that 3-home run game that really boosted her stats. But for PV House, she has 6 RBIs, 3 strikeouts, and an on-base percentage of .320. Looking for a chance to drive in a run. And she swings and misses on the inside half. 0-1. PV House behind it, up into the air. That's going to go foul. PV House swings and misses. So Rosas gives up a run, gives up a couple of hits, a couple of runners as well, and then comes back with back-to-back strikeouts as McCall is going to step in. Two outs on, and that's going to go outside for 1-0. One ball and no strikes. McCall choking up on the bat slightly, get more control, and she fouls it over to the left. To home, up and high, 2-1. The gold-clad Hornets taking on the gray or slate-colored Santa Ana Dons. Over towards right and into the glove of Ramirez. That's going to take us to the top half of the 6th inning. The Hornets lead it by 3. You are watching Fullerton College softball on sportsnetusa.net. So Ramirez to the plate now, and she will lead things off. She's going to be followed up by Macias. As PB House stays out there in the circle for the Fullerton College Hornets. Bounces in 1-0. Two balls, no strikes. Infield is in. Dufresne over at third. He's about 4 or 5 steps in, down the third base line. 2-0 count. Called strike, 2-1. D. Ramirez at short. Over at second is Alcala and Lucero at first. Outfield from left to right is Rooney, Hernandez, and Ferguson. And behind home plate is Natera with PV House in the circle. To home, smacked up towards center. It's getting down towards Ferguson, and she will make the catch. Macias. After her is Rosas, as Rosas goes into the on-deck circle. 4-1 is the score. Hornets still with the lead. As PV House gets a called strike right at the knees. Nice breaking ball there, as Macias was locked up on it. To home, Macias, off the glove of Dufresne, over to Ramirez. She's not going to have a throw. That'll be an infield hit, as Dufresne wasn't sure where Ramirez was behind her. Ramirez, if she had gotten a chance at that ball, would have had plenty of time to toss it over to first. No balls, 1 strike, and 1 away was when that ball was hit, but now you've got 1 out and a runner over on first. And a chance for Santa Ana to get back on the board. Oh, and 1 count. Rosas. First pitch gets a piece. Second, down the third baseline, fair. It's going to go into the corner. Nice job by Rooney to block it. She tosses the third. The tag is in time. Toss down to second, double play. Sensational defense by Fullerton College, and it gets them out of the top half of the 6th. To recap what just took place, Rosas doubles down the third baseline. Rooney gets to that ball sliding and is able to keep it in front of her. Gets up, makes a quick, strong throw on a line right to third. It is picked up and caught by Dufresne. She slaps the tag down onto the runner in Ramirez, who was sliding into the third base bag, trying to take the extra opportunity. That is an out. They toss it over to second, and taking too many steps down towards the third base line was Rosas, and she is tagged out as well. A double play for the Hornets, and we go to the bottom half of the 6th, and the Hornets with 1 more chance to pad their lead. It's 4-1 Fullerton College over Santa Ana. You are watching Fullerton College softball on SportsNetUSA.net. Once again, we thank you for joining us. It has been quite the lively afternoon here at Fullerton College. A doubleheader between Fullerton and Santa Ana. Earlier we had Rashawn Haylock, the franchise, ended up getting on the air here on SportsNetUSA.net and called out a 5-3 win for Santa Ana. And now here in game number 2 between Fullerton and Santa Ana, the Hornets with a 4-1 lead. Now again, 3 runs isn't something that you look at for Santa Ana and say, okay, well, that's out of reach. Because again, in game number 1, they were down by 3 early on and were able to not only bring it back, but win by 2. But here in this one, all of a sudden, you got to think that that last chance for Santa Ana going awry is a little backbreaking for them. Rosas in the circle keeps shaking her head and trying to work off that last half inning. And that decision that she made to round the second base bag. Again, Rooney from left field, a strike to third to get the runner trying to take the extra base as this is into the air and contacted in foul territory.
Now to bat number 25, Jocelyn Alcala.
That ball right there, up into the air about 15 feet, both Sanchez and Rosas. Miscommunication as they were trying to figure out who was going to end up taking it for them. And it ended up landing in between both of them, and luckily for the Dons, spins its way back into foul ground. So Lucero with another chance to hit here. Aubrey Lucero. High two-hopper over to short, picked up, not thrown by Macias, it's an error. That is the 5th error combined between these two teams in this ball game alone. So an unforced opportunity, or an unforced error for Santa Ana a few moments before, where that ball again lands in between both Rosas and Sanchez and goes into foul ground. Ends up hurting them as they have a runner at first now who should have been out number 1. And Sky Samano is going to check in for the Hornets over at first. So a big chance for Fullerton to really extend their 4-1 lead. Lineup changes coming up here for both these two teams, it seems, as Sky Samano is going to check in at first, and the lineup is being checked over and corrected by Coach Ross. And that brings Alcala next. We've got some changes for Santa Ana. Macias is going to go from short to third. Over at third base, Ramirez goes into center field. And coming in from center, Uriarte will take over at short. Samano bluffs over to second, 1 ball and no strikes. Swing and a miss by Alcala. Bunted first base side in fair territory. Alcala on to first. She is tossed out, but she moves Samano down to second. So with 1 out on, Clarissa Hernandez up. And she takes a breaking ball to the outside corner for a strike, 0-1. 1 out, bottom half of the 6th inning, 4-1 Fullerton College. That stays up and high, 1-1. Foul, left-hand side, and that's going to go into the street over to our left, off of Berkeley. Next up, high, and it stays away. 1 ball and 2 strikes, turns into 2-2. Here's the 1-2. Strike 3 call. If you're Hernandez, you can't take that one. It ends up going on the outside half of the plate. She knew it immediately, too. But nonetheless, you know that your team has a lead, so it's okay as Ferguson comes up next. So Rosas delivering to Ferguson, who swings through that one and misses. Last time up for Ferguson, she singled to left field and then came around to score. No balls, 1 strike, 2 outs. Runner at second is Sky Samano. They're not going to send her here as she ends up bluffing towards third, and she'll stay back, and Sanchez keeps that in front of her. Bunted, third base side, foul. Ferguson trying to reset herself outside the batter's box as Sanchez has a quick word with Rosas. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 away. Back to home. High chopper over to short, picked up, thrown to first in time. And Ferguson is just tossed out. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Dribbler over to short. Takes us to the top half of the 7th. It's 4-1 Fullerton College. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. We remind you that here on SportsNetUSA.net you can tune in this upcoming week as we've got a lot of baseball and softball on the way. If you're thinking to yourself, well, what exactly does that mean? What are you talking about? Just tune in next week. That doesn't give me much of a timeline. Now, does it, Ryan? Well, I can give you an answer here as to when the next time you can tune in, and that would be April the 27th on Tuesday at 2 p.m. as Fullerton College baseball is going to end up taking on Irvine Valley in the first of their 2 games at Fullerton College. They'll also be back here on SportsNetUSA.net on April 29th at home against Irvine Valley again. Both of those 2 games at 2 p.m. So, Fullerton College baseball at home on April the 27th and the 29th. And then you can also take a look at Fullerton College softball once again exactly 1 week from today, as we'll be back out here at the softball field for another doubleheader with Fullerton College being here at home. So check out SportsNetUSA.net because we've got a lot of stuff coming up here in this upcoming week. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 different games in 3 days. That's right, 4 in 3. And you are able to watch it right here on SportsNetUSA.net. PV House is getting set to come in and face Santa Ana College once more against Miranda Hernandez. or excuse me, Miranda Ramirez,
27, Miranda
joined by Michaela Avina, in addition to Cecilia Sanchez. So the 7, 8, and 9 hitters due up here as Santa Ana has to get some offense going in a hurry. To home. First pitch from PB House, way up and high. Bounces home, 2-0. Two balls, no strikes. 4-1 Fullerton College, top 7, nobody out. Make it 3-0 as Miranda Ramirez is able to watch all the way. And that forces a meeting in the circle as Natera wants to have a word with PB House. (3-0). 4-pitch walk. Puts a runner on, and Avina coming up next.
Michaela Avina.
Looks like we may have a lineup change here in a moment, and there is indeed one. We'll see who the runner is over at first. And coming in for Ramirez over at first is Evelyn Nava. So Nava enters, and she will be running over at first. Santa Ana again is chasing 3. They've got 3 outs to work with here in the inning. There's a called strike on the inside half, right at the knees, and Avina knows it as well. 0-1. Same location, same result for PB House, 0-2. High into the air, a floater. Hernandez underneath it makes the call, thinking about throwing all the way over to first, but decides better of it and just brings it back into the circle.
Now batting number 17.
And Cecilia Sanchez is up next. No balls and 1 strike. Make it 1-1. One and one count, 1 gone, 1 runner on. 1's all around as the next delivery for Santa Ana. And Sanchez is a called strike right in on the hands, 1-2. to home. That's going to be called foul. Off the knob of the bat, 1-2. And actually, it is catcher's interference.
Now batting number 20.
So what happens is that ball ends up going towards the bat. As she goes to swing, her bat ends up making contact with the glove of Natera behind home plate. That's what sent the ball over towards the left, not a foul ball, and it goes as catcher's interference. So now all of a sudden, Santa Ana has 2 runners on with 1 out, and with 1 swing of the bat, they can tie things up here. One ball, no strikes as Uriarte will go over towards the third base side, and we might have a change runner-wise. We'll see in a moment as Sanchez will see a pinch runner come in for her. And it will be Fatima Mercado. So Fatima Mercado on over at first. At second is Evelyn Nava. 2 balls and no strikes from PV House to Uriarte. Hornets trying to get out of this top half of the 7th inning without runs being scored. If they're able to do so successfully, that would be a win for the Fullerton College Hornets, literally and figuratively. Inside half, too far inside, 3-0. Make it 3-1. Three balls, 1 strike, 1 away. To home for PV House. 3-2 as she gets that one across home plate as well. Next up, Uriarte sends that one directly foul behind home plate. Defensively for the Hornets, PV House in the circle, Natera behind home plate. At first is Lucero, second base is Alcala. Third base is Dufresne, shortstop is Ramirez. Outfield from left to right, Rooney, Hernandez, Ferguson. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 away. PV House into the line, to home, smacked into center field. Hernandez underneath it, makes the catch, thinking about second, toss there, not in time. Oh, so close for the Hornets, getting their second double play in as many innings. Nonetheless, they do get 1 out that they needed, and that will bring up Erilyn Ramirez. One ball, no strikes to Erilyn Ramirez. Runners on first and second. PV House looking to get out of the top half of the 7th as she gets a called strike, 1-1. Dug out down the first base line, trying to get into it. As they see strike 2 from PV House. Delivery home, out towards right. Ferguson can't get it, and it gets away. It's going to go all the way into the corner. That allows for 1 run to score. Here comes 2. Mercado across home plate. Down to 3. It will be Ramirez, and just like that, a ball gets away, and it's now 4-3. So Santa Ana 1 strike away from going back home with a split of a doubleheader. And now they bring up Westerfield, who leads them in RBIs. Ferguson came charging up on that. It goes directly below her glove all the way to the wall. And by the time she picked up on it, well, the tying run's now at third. Westerfield gets a called strike up in on the hands. Oh and 1. Make it 0-2. Westerfield chops it down the third baseline foul. So the game-tying run is over at third base. Madison PV House in the circle trying to end things here with a no-ball, 2-strike count. Second time that Santa Ana has been down to their final strike. To home. On the 0-2, it goes off the glove of PV House, directly to Alcala, tossed to first in time. And that is going to do it for this one. Fullerton College ends up with a 4-3 victory as they split a doubleheader with Santa Ana here this afternoon. Westerfield shaking her head as she ends up exiting stage left here. But for Fullerton, they now go up to 7-1 this season, and Santa Ana is 2 games behind that. So that's going to do it for our coverage of Fullerton College softball here this afternoon. We want to thank Rashawn Haylock for being on earlier, the franchise allowing us to be graced with his presence here today. In addition to Ed Ford and Mark Pavlovich, we want to thank them for helping us get everything all set up here at the softball field, and for Joe Pavlenko over to my right, who has been the technical engineer throughout the entirety of this ball game. I'm Ryan Osborne, thanking you for joining us. 4-3, a win for Fullerton College over Santa Ana in Game 2. You have been watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net.